Hey there, it's Steve from Serious Keto, and this is the Not So Serious Keto video podcast. If you're watching this podcast on Monday, December 6th, which is the public release day, the first thing I need you to know is I will not be responding to comments at all today. No comment responses, no hearts, nothing. And the reason for that is because I'm having surgery today. So probably as you are watching this, I am at the hospital, either prepping for surgery or under general anesthesia. But once I get home, I know from past experience that when I come off of general anesthesia, I'm still kind of loopy, and I just don't trust myself for what kind of responses, goofy or otherwise, that I may make in the comments. So no comment responses today. And I'll talk a little bit more about the surgery at the end of this video. It's a men's health issue, and I like to keep those towards the end. But you may be wondering, since I'm not responding to comments, how come there are comments with responses from me already? Well, that's because, and I've mentioned this before, but since I get new viewers from time to time, I feel it's worth mentioning again. When I upload a video, I make it available to any of my paid channel members right away. Sometimes this is just a day early. Other times it can be 3 weeks early. An example of that will be the video that comes out this Wednesday, which is a review of carbonate bread, along with some pretty extensive blood glucose testing. That I actually recorded probably 3 weeks ago, and my paid subscribers have been able to watch it since then. But you'll all get to see it on Wednesday. And since it was recorded 3 weeks ago, I have a beard. So it's not like I suddenly, over the course of 2 days, was just able to grow a decent, well, maybe not decent, an attempt at a beard is what it looks like on Wednesday's video. But back to the whole channel member thing, that's one of the perks of being a channel member, is that they do get to see my videos early. Sort of an unintentional perk of that is when I use an ingredient or a gadget or something, they get to find out about it first and get out on Amazon before it's all sold out. But there's a lot of different perks that I offer. If it's something you're curious about, you can click the join button. It's down by the subscribe button, generally speaking, or there's a link in the description that also shows a little video with all the perks. But really, I'd like to think that the biggest perk in all of it is you're helping support the channel, and you can feel good about that, because it makes me feel good about that too. But anyhow, what else do we got going on here in terms of YouTube? Oh, lagging metrics. This is something that I hear about pretty much every week. I'll do a podcast and I'll get, I don't know, 5, 6 comments from people saying, this is weird. There's only 170 views of this video, yet there's 300 likes and 230 comments. How does that work? What sort of shenanigans is going on? There are no shenanigans going on. What happens is that YouTube comment and like metrics, those seem to be pretty much simultaneous, or what's the word I'm looking for? Instantaneous, not simultaneous, instantaneous. However, the view metrics on your side, when you're looking at the videos, they lag by about 2 hours. On my side, if I go into the, it's called YouTube Studio, I can see the current views. And usually when you're seeing that there's 170, 200 views, I'm seeing 15 to 1800 views on my side. So there's no shenanigans going on. It's just something goofy with YouTube. And continuing on the subject of YouTube, this past week I was part of a focus group for YouTube. There was about 170, 180 of us that were brought into this webinar and live chat and all of that. And it was about Altmon. So alternative monetization strategies for your YouTube channel. And one of the big ones is memberships, which I talked about earlier. But one of the things that really struck me in this webinar was how little YouTube people seem to actually know about how YouTube works. It's scary. I get questions from some of you some of the time asking things like, how does YouTube make money, or how does YouTube determine the ads, or how does YouTube, how does the algorithm work? And anytime I've tried to ask anybody from YouTube, I can't get an answer. They don't know. It's I don't know what YouTube is, just some weird form of artificial intelligence or something, and there's no humans that can answer a question. But all of us were asking questions about things like membership reporting, and can you direct message a channel member, or why not? And what else was there? Let's see, did I write any notes down here? There was just a number of different, and one of the things that I had asked about was When someone becomes a channel member, could you automatically have a message go out to them, sort of reminding them of their perks and thanking them and welcoming them and all of that? And it was interesting. I left that comment in the comment window and it got deleted. Actually, I think I left 2 or 3 questions, and all fairly benign sort of questions. I mean, I wasn't saying you guys at YouTube suck or anything like that. These were questions about functionality within the Creator Council and reporting and things like that, and my comments disappeared. So I won't say deleted. I will say my comments disappeared. So anyhow, if you're ever frustrated about not being able to get answers on YouTube, know that even I can't get answers on YouTube, and it seems that even people that work for YouTube don't have the answers very often. Or at least I haven't connected to someone that has the answers. And sort of on the subject as well of deleted or disappearing comments, I'm continuing to see that in the comment section on this channel. And I don't delete comments. So I'm perplexed. I mean, there may have been instances where viewers have left comments, and I get on top of comments pretty fast. It's sort of an obsession with me responding to all of you. And there was one someone had typed, and I was typing a response, and then I hit send, and I saw that little spinning wheel, like, YouTube's brain is working, and it just hung there. So I hit refresh, my comment and her comment disappeared. So, like I said, there could be instances where someone types a comment, and because I'm fairly quick to reply, maybe it was in the middle of a video, and by the time she got to the end of the video, she saw the answer and then deleted the comment. But I have also had people specifically tell me that they have left comments and they've disappeared. So this is a weird thing. I've also, strangely enough, seen a lot more comments show up in my Held for Review tab. And all of them, again, completely benign. There hasn't been one of them that I haven't approved. They've all been really mild, or like not even mild, I guess. What would the word be? Just completely benign. They're harmless comments. And for whatever reason, YouTube is flagging them as requiring review from me. So, I don't know. YouTube, it's a strange, strange beast. This past week, I had probably my least favorite Costco trip. I've been a Costco member, I think, for around 5 years, and I'm a pretty big fan. But lately, I'm becoming less of one, and I don't know that it's so much Costco's fault as just what's sort of going on economically currently. I mean, there's, I think, been maybe 3 times in my history as a Costco member where I found everything that I'm looking for. Because Costco, they like moving stuff around. They call it, I think, the Easter egg hunt amongst Costco members. But beyond that, they will also switch brands that they carry. So you'll get really used to a brand like Rayo's marinara sauce, and then they switch to a different brand that's got more carbs. That's a little bit frustrating. But what's frustrating me even more now is I think Costco is starting to feel some of the supply chain issues, which means I'm starting to really feel some of the supply chain issues. The last 3 times I went to Costco, they did not have heavy whipping cream. Now, to me, that's a staple. Like, that's bad news. When you're out of heavy whipping cream, I think the only thing that would be worse is if they ran out of eggs. I mean, to me, then that's Armageddon right there. But on top of that, I've noticed just less supply of various food items. There's plenty of rice and bread and flour and stuff like that, but I'm seeing a lot. The pallet size seems to be shrinking down on a lot of things. But even that doesn't bother me nearly as much as the price on meat. This is getting out of control. I mean, people will complain or state, depends, I guess, on how they phrase it, that keto is expensive. And it's getting worse, folks. The price on meat is just, it's changing. It's changing what I eat. I mean, I used to buy the Kirkland 4-pack of bacon, and I think it was $12 or something last year. This last trip, $22. We're talking like 50 cents a slice of bacon now. That's nuts. And ribeyes, I can't. Ribeyes, tenderloin, some of the better cuts of cow, I can't do it anymore. I can't afford it. So I think what you're going to start to see, oh, hang on for just 1 second, because I think some of you may be starting to type right now, and it's going to be something political. either on the left or on the right. Just, I would encourage you not to, because I don't want this to turn into a political discussion. If you do, that's, I guess, your prerogative. I'm not going to censor it, but I'm also not going to respond, because if I respond in any way that will give some sort of an indication as to where I am politically, which I like to think is fairly much in the center, I'm kind of an independent thinker, independent voter, but more importantly, I like to keep this channel apolitical. So let's not make this about politics. Let's just sort of agree that we're all sort of starting to feel this, and it's not a good feeling. I know that even keto products, the prices have gone up. The price went up on Perfect Keto. The price went up on Keto Chow, each by, I think, 10%. And I would be thrilled if meat prices had only gone up 10%, but they've gone up way more than that. And what that means, and I kind of alluded to this a couple of podcasts ago, I expect that you're going to start to see more recipes on this channel that are lesser cuts of beef that are prepared in a way likely low and slow, whether that's a crock pot or sous vide or potentially a pressure cooker that makes the most of those cuts of meat. So just sort of expect that. But also I want you to know that if you're feeling the pain at the grocery store, you're not alone. I'm feeling it too. It's not good. And I really feel bad, I guess, for carnivores. If people have gotten used to eating ribeye on a regular basis, that's got to be hitting them hard in the wallet. So I hope we get through this soon, and I hope that at some point prices go back to normal. And I think this also sort of reflects back to a bigger thing in terms of nutrition and socioeconomics, if that's a word. If it isn't, I just made it up and it sounds cool. But you look at inexpensive food, that's always the crappy, unhealthy stuff. So people who are in a lower place economically are also kind of forced to be in a lower place in terms of health and nutrition. And that just, I don't have an answer for that either. But go to the dollar store and try shopping for anything healthy. Good luck on that. It's a challenge even at the grocery store. So I've kind of had to set down some rules with the family, which is we don't shop based on what we want to eat. We'll shop based on what's on sale and what we can get cheap. And then Dad or husband Steve is going to figure out what I can make with it. And I suspect that that's probably the case for a lot of you as well. And like I said, some of my recipes coming up are going to reflect that. And we'll talk more about some upcoming recipes after this brief little ad break. In a moment, I'm going to talk about recipes and where I'm at with one particular recipe that I'm pretty excited about, and also YouTube recipe collaborations. But I need to start by talking about a book that I'm currently reading / listening to, more listening to because it's an Audible book, and it's The Rational Optimist by Matt Ridley. I think the subtitle of the book is How Prosperity Evolves. It's an interesting book, but first let me get out of the way what I think are kind of its less desirable elements. First, it's as an audiobook, the chapters are incredibly long. They're all like an hour and a half long, which is way longer than any sort of a drive that I take. To me, I feel that if chapters are about 15 minutes long, that's really sort of ideal for me, just based on wherever I'm driving. But that's one. The other issue is it seems like I can't really I can't feel a cohesive structure behind any given chapter. It seems to meander through all kinds of disparate topics, all interesting or most interesting, but I can't always connect the dots between what the author is talking about and in one segment to what he's talking about in the next segment. It seems like they should segue a little bit better. But overall, the theme that I've gotten out of the book, and I'm maybe a quarter of the way into it, it is kind of about human macroeconomics and societal economics. A little bit on evolution, but really more, instead of human evolution, sort of the evolution of innovation. And a lot of the book is sort of dispelling certain popular notions, like things are getting harder, things are getting more expensive. I talked before the break about how food is getting more expensive, but It's actually, he says, food is not getting more expensive. It's getting less expensive in terms of a common metric for cost, and that is time. How many hours do we need to work in order to buy that steak or that t-shirt or that house? And what we're finding as time goes on is that we have to work less hours to make things happen because there's a lot more efficiency, there's a lot more specialization. He talks a lot about specialization and why that's important, and dispels the notion that self-sufficiency is a good thing. Like, I've always thought, ooh, I'd love to be self-sufficient, love to make all of my own food and do all my own carpentry and things like that. But he says, no, that's not good because you're never going to be great at any of these things. Society does best when the people that are great at things do those things and then trade them for the things that they are not great at, but someone else is great at. And a very interesting concept that Ridley brings up in the last chapter that I read, is on sharing. Like sharing of information, sharing of innovation, sharing of ideas, rather than trying to be the one person that creates this great idea or this great company or this great product. That overall, it's more profitable to any individual to share that idea and let that idea grow. And I probably didn't explain that all that well, but where it resonated with me is I feel that with recipe creators, in particular keto recipe creators, because that's what I am and I relate to that, I think a lot of us want to be the one that comes up with the recipe that everybody wants, that viral thing, whether that's a noodle or a pizza crust or a tortilla or a bread or whatever it is. There's that constant, I guess, ego-driven thing, at least for me, it's probably a bit ego-driven, which is I want to be the one that creates that thing. And according to this last chapter, that's not the best. It's not the best for me. It's not the best for you. It's not the best for any of us. The best is when we collaborate and work together. Of course, the little wrench that's in all of this is if we are the one, if I'm the one, or if Wes at High Falutin Low Carb is the one, or Dennis at Black Tie Kitchen is the one, or whomever, I'm just throwing out names here, you're going to drive more traffic to your channel and you're going to make more money. So there's that profit motive behind it. And that's where I'm wrestling, because I'm working on a recipe right now. I've been working on it for quite a while. And I've mentioned before, both in this podcast and I think in interviews that I've done, that the worst place to be on a recipe is 95% of the way there. I've been 95% of the way there for 5 or 6 weeks, I think, on this particular recipe. And it has gone through a lot of different end visions, I guess. I mean, it started off as it was going to be a tortilla. I'm constantly trying to create the perfect tortilla. And as I started making it, I realized, this might work better as a lasagna noodle. And in fact, it does work pretty good as a lasagna noodle. And I had some scraps from it, and I dehydrated those, and they made pretty amazing tortilla chips. Very crunchy, crispy, the texture pretty darn close to a corn tortilla chip. I did another batch that was a little bit thicker, and they came out an awful lot like crackers. And that got me thinking, could I modify this in such a way to make a pizza crust? So there's a lot of different directions this recipe could go in. And I'm continuing to work on it, trying to perfect it. And I'm reminded of the quote, what is it? Perfection is achieved not when there is nothing left to add, but when there is nothing left to take away. And I feel like I keep adding to the recipe. I keep trying something that makes it a little bit more complicated to make, whether that's in terms of process or ingredient. And that's what I don't want. I want to create something simple that becomes the next fathead dough. And like I said, I'm struggling, and I feel that if I continue to struggle for another week or so on this, I'm going to throw my ego out the door. And I've already talked to Wes about this, and he said that he'd love to help me out. I'm sure Dennis would love to get on this as well. Well, I'm assuming. I mean, Dennis and I tend to, we get together and we talk about recipes, and it turns out that we're often thinking along the same lines for recipes. So I wouldn't be surprised if he was interested in being a partner on this as well. But that may be coming. There may be a collaboration, a two-way or three-way collaboration to figure out how can we take this recipe and potentially make it into any number of things. Like I said, a lasagna noodle. It could be a tortilla. I think that's still very much a possibility. Or some other type of sandwich wrap. The chips, that's what I'm closest to, because I took some of my failures from the lasagna noodles and just cut them into triangles and threw them into a dehydrator, and I got these chips, and they're great. I let my wife try them. She liked them. My son liked them. So 2 non-keto people liked these, and they're practically carnivore. So that's all I can say about it right now. Anyhow, I'm not sure where I was going with this other than to say that's something to expect coming up on this channel. Either I'm going to get the recipe right on my own soon, or it's going to be a collaborative recipe / collaborative video. So keep your eyes peeled for that. And with that, we get to the final topic of this podcast, which is the surgery that I'm having as you're watching this. So I've mentioned this throughout Movember, Men's Health Month, talking about the fact that I've been diagnosed with an enlarged prostate. And what this can mean is it can mean it's kind of hard going to the bathroom. It's not a pleasant experience at all. And the alternatives are drugs or surgery. And I didn't want to be on drugs for the rest of my life. There are different types of surgery that you can have, some with more side effects and pain and longer recovery. The one I'm having is called UroLift, where basically they go in through the urethra. Fortunately, I'm under general anesthesia for this. And they put some clips into your prostate that basically open up the donut hole in the middle. And that's what I'm having done. And I think that is going to be it for this podcast. As always, I thank you so much for taking a little time out of your day to spend with me. Thanks for watching or listening.